Alrighty, so welcome. So today we're going to be having a look at reducing balance loans, and I want to break it up into three different parts that happen: interest, repayments, and principal portions. Because although the formula kind of just works, I want us to be really careful about understanding the different parts that are all happening at once. To get from one term to the next term, we're not just multiplying by something now. Now we're multiplying by something and taking something else off. So it is getting a little bit more complex. So, what do I mean? Let's just have a look at an example. So I'm going to have a quick write-up of something. So maybe we have something like this. Okay. Oh, maybe that's too big. We'll say $5,000. Alrighty. So, what is this telling us? Let's just remind ourselves what this all means. Well, I'm going to be saying that this is, say, maybe a monthly repayment. So each month, the whole account gets a little bit bigger, and then it gets smaller by that amount. So it gets a little bit bigger, then it goes down. So let's break that up. This part over here is our increase. It is the interest that's getting added to the account. It's making our loan bigger. This is the bad part. This part here is our repayments. It's what we're paying back bit by bit to try to get this $5,000 back to zero. So each time we're doing this, A gets a little bit bigger, multiplied by 1.02, and then it gets a little bit smaller by $600. Every single time we repeat this process, that's what's happening. So I want to be able to break it down into those pieces. So first of all, first question is, how much bigger is it getting? Now, some of you might look at that and say, well, it's getting 2% bigger, right? Because 1.02 as R, well, that tells us that our interest rate is just 2% per month, because that's how much it's going up by month. But I want to think about it sort of numerically, right? Because with compound interest, things never stay the same. Interest will never stay the same. So let's just work out how much interest is gained in the first month. That's the question. So I want to know how much interest is gained. Well, like we said, it's 2%, but let's ignore the minus 600 bit. Let's just work out what it would be if we didn't pay off anything. Well, A1 would be equal to 1.02 times A0. I'm going to ignore that minus 600 because I just want to know how much bigger the account got. $5,100. So $5,100 is how much bigger it is. Now the question is, how much interest was gained? Now I'm not going to use any special letters or anything because we've already got about 10 different I's that we've been dealing with. So I'm just going to say interest. Well, the interest is the new value minus the old value. It's the difference. We had 5,000 to begin with, and now we have 5,100. So the interest for the first period is $100. Okay? Now this tells us something. It got $100 bigger before it got $600 smaller. So we want to actually have a think about this as our repayment doesn't just pay off the loan. Part of what the repayment is doing is it's paying off the interest as we go. So we actually split the repayment into two pieces. We call it the interest portion, the part that's paying off the interest rate, and the principal portion, the part that's paying off the principal itself, what the actual loan is. So the one we really care about is this principal portion. And the principal portion is just the repayments minus the interest. So in this case, it's going to be $600, because that's how big our repayments are, minus $100. Alrighty, so my principal portion would be $500, meaning that every time well, not every time, in the first month, the amount that my whole account goes down by, this loan goes down by $500, because it got a little bit bigger, which was the interest, and then it got a lot smaller by the repayment. So this just sort of gives us a little bit of a head start. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to find the interest rate and then find the principal portion. So alrighty. So there's your starting one. AN plus 1 equals 1.02. AN minus 300, where A naught equals 4,000. And what I want you to tell me is, first of all, what the interest is on the first period, and then what the principal portion is for the first period. Alright, so pause the video and have a go at that. Alrighty, so let's have a go through. So first of all, I'm going to work out this first bit, the interest. So A1 would be equal to 1.02 AN, A naught, which in this case is 4,000, so times 4,000. Now I'm ignoring the repayment for the minute. Normally you wouldn't, but in this case I'm not going to bother. So $4,080. So that means the interest gained is going to be 4,080 minus 4,000, because that's how much bigger it got, $80. Okay? And then for the second part, where I needed to find the principal portion, well, principal portion is just equal to $300 minus $80. And that gives us 220. Remembering, it's our repayments, in this case $300, minus the interest gained for that period. Alrighty, so if $220 is our principal portion, then we call the $80 the interest portion, because in a sense the $300 gets split into two parts. The $80 is going to spend getting rid of the interest, and the $220 is all going towards lowering the value of the account. And so I know that my new value is going to be $220 less than 4,000. So let's actually start having a look at that. So I'm going to write up a bit more of a complicated problem. I want us to have a look through. So let's imagine that we get a 4.86% per annum rate on my loan, with yearly payments of $1,200. So that's my repayments. So we're thinking annual. And I know that on the first loan, on my first repayment, I have to pay back, alrighty, so 4.86% per annum, $1,200 repayments, and on the first year, the interest portion was $510.30. Okay? So in the first year, the interest portion was $510.30. So the first question is, what was the principal portion of this one? So calculate, I'm just going to write it down. Find the principal portion. So what does that mean when finding the principal portion? Well, remember, the interest portion plus the principal portion is the repayment, right? The repayment gets split into two, so if I add the two together, I get back the whole. Well, I know that $1,200 is my repayment, and that's going to be, well, my principal portion is going to be my repayment minus my interest portion. So let's work that out. $689.70. That's my principal portion. It's just the difference between my repayment and my interest portion. And I can double check that by adding my interest portion and my principal portion, and we'll see that it adds up to $1,200, my repayment. Well, then the second thing I might want to know is, well, how much was actually borrowed? What was the principal? So I might say starting value, question mark. Alrighty, well, using just the fact that we know that in 1 year, given this percentage, it gained that much interest. Well, for 1 year, compound interest works exactly the same as simple interest. Now I could use the compound interest formula to find P, but the simple interest formula is a lot easier, so I'm going to use it. The only reason I'm allowed to use the simple interest formula is because I'm doing just a 1 year increment. If I was doing a 3 year increment, it wouldn't work. It only works for a 1 year percent. So my interest, well, that's 510. Right? Because that's what my interest portion is. It's how much the interest was on that first one. So that's my capital I. We're only looking at 1 year, which is the thing that makes this work. So that's n equals 1. And my little I, my interest rate, is just going to be 0.0486. And now I'm just going to be solving for P. So I get 510.30 equal to P times 0.0486 times 1. Divide both sides by 0.0486 times 1. No, well, times 1 just means nothing, so I'm just going to divide both sides by . And I'm going to be left with $10,500. So my starting value was that P principal. And now that I know what my starting value is, well, I can now write the third part, which is write a recurrence relation. So in this case, it's going to be AN plus 1 equals RAN minus capital R, where, we're with an A naught, and so my rate from the beginning, 4.86, so it's going to give me 1.0486 AN. My repayments were 1,200, and my starting value I just figured out was 10,500. So it's a fair bit of working when you have a look at it all in all. It is a fair bit of work. So I might just make that, I might just move this one over a little bit. So, once we have that, now let's have a go for yourselves. So, 5.2% per annum. We'll go yearly again with $1,000 repayments and an interest portion of $832. So, I want you to find out three things. The principal portion, the starting value, and then write a recurrence relation. Pause the video, have a go through. Remember, they all match up one for one. Alrighty, so principal portion. Let's have a look at the original. What did I do? I took my repayments and I minused my interest portion. I'm going to do the same thing here. So the principal portion is equal to the amount that was the repayments minus the interest portion. So the interest portion was $832. $168. That's my principal portion. Now, what was my starting value? Well, once again, I'm going to use simple interest. Why? Because I'm only doing it for 1 year. And for 1 year, compound and simple work the same way. For 1 period, compound and simple work the same way. My I is equal to 0.052, and my interest is just $832. So, substituting in, I equals PIN, 832 equals something and that gives us that the principal would be equal to 832 divided by 0.052 or $1,600. And now I'm ready for the last step, which is to do my recurrence relation. AN plus 1 equals RAN minus capital R. AN plus 1 is equal to, well, my R is 5.2%, so it's 1.052 AN minus my $1,000 repayments, given that my starting value, A naught, was $16,000, sorry. Alrighty. I know that was a bit much, but hopefully some of that did work out. Got any questions, make sure you let me know. See you in the next one. Goodbye.